RPD here. In this video I want to introduce a trick I called Swift. Swift looks like a simple trick. While one pen does a pass normal, the other one does a pass reverse. However, despite its simplicity, it's an incredibly powerful trick that leads to multiple variations in which the pens move simultaneously. Swift feels kind of like the 2-pen 1-hand equivalent of finger pass. The mechanics are simple, it's easy to learn, but it's very hard to master. As far as I know, the first person to ever do this trick was the French spinner Linkages in December 2017. His focus with this video wasn't the trick, but the unpairing of the two modes during the Sonic Rev. I asked him if he had given this trick any name, but he didn't, so I decided to give it my own name, which is Swift. In his Pen Spinning Olympics 2020 submission, the Filipino spinner ABC found another variation of Swift. Criswea did the same variation as the starter of his World Tournament 21 Round 3 combo versus Void. I realized the potential of this trick in 2022. I noticed that applying the reverse and inverse modifiers there would be 4 possible variations. At the time I wasn't able to execute them in all slots. In 2023 I finally was able to do them in all of the slots, upwards and downwards. So, I have already explained slot chirality in the first video of this series, but let me explain it again since it's very important for understanding this trick and the tricks that follow. The idea is that in 1-pen 1-hand going from this slot to this slot is basically trivial, but in 2-pen 1-hand going from this slot to this slot is very much non-trivial. You can see that the pens have to do some complex motions and the pens can collide in the process. So when designing a combo or when studying tricks, if the slots are chiral, we have to be careful of which chirality we are. For example, this is not a chiral slot, this is not a chiral slot, but this is a chiral slot. In particular, this is the left-handed chirality or levo or L chirality, and this is the right-handed chirality or dextro or R chirality. I wanted to mention this because Linkages commented in the first video, rightfully so, that this is very confusing for left-handed spinners, because of course this is the left-handed chirality for a right-handed spinner, but it would be this for a left-handed spinner. This mnemonic is the opposite for left-handed spinners. I know this is very confusing, but I've tried different naming conventions and this is the one that was the less confusing to me. So if anyone has another idea, I'm open to suggestions, but for now this is how it is. It's RL or dextro level. Probably we could avoid the right-handed, left-handed names, but yeah, this is slot chirality. The basic variation of this trick is the one that both Linkages and ABC found. Each of the individual movements starts and ends in a levo slot. Movement in the downwards direction is the easiest since the pens interfere constructively. To do this trick, first start with one pen in T1 and the other pen in 1-2. Check that the pens are correctly positioned and do a pass reverse with the lower pen. You can see how it collides with the top pen, and as you continue doing the pass reverse, the top pen falls, doing a pass normal into 1-2. You can do the same from 1-2-3 to 2-3-4. Again, the bottom pen would do a pass reverse and then it collides with the top pen. And as it collides, the top pen falls into position doing a pass normal. The movement on the upwards direction is a bit more complex. Start by checking that you have the pens in the correct position and do a pass normal with the top pen. You can see that as you do that, some space opens up below it. You can use that space to do a pass reverse with the bottom pen. You can then do the same for the other slots. As explained in the intro, this trick feels a lot like finger pass. It's easy to learn and hard to master. Don't stress too much about not being able to do these tricks smoothly. It will probably get some practice to get there. I recommend you to experiment with how you hold each pen, so holding it more like this or more like this, or more on the outer part of the finger or more on the inner part of the finger, and how much you bend at each finger. So for example, you can see how for this Swift, the basic Swift, it's probably easier once you do this pass, you separate the bottom 2 fingers and the top 2 fingers. It's going to be easier to then do the trick smoothly. That's kind of like a common trend with all of the Swift variations. If you separate the fingers, then it's going to be probably a bit easier to do the trick. Swift reverse is the temporal reverse of the previous trick, so it also starts and ends in level slots. And in this case, the upwards movements are the easiest. So these ones here. To do it, start with one pen in 3/4 and the other in 2/3. Check that the pens are correctly positioned and do a pass reverse with the top pen. Notice how it collides on the back of the hand with the bottom pen, and as it collides, you can see how it guides the movement of the bottom pen to do a pass normal. You can then do the same for the other slots. The movement in the downwards direction is a bit more complex. Start by doing a pass normal with the bottom pen, while also starting a pass reverse with the top pen. You can see after you finish the movement with the bottom pen, some space opens up here to finish the movement of the top pen. You can do this as a pass, so like this, or you can do it more of like a power pass, so just leaving the pen to rotate by itself. Then for the other slot it's going to be the same. It feels strange for a trick to be so different when going up and down, but that's how this trick is. Also, we'll see in other tutorials that some tricks can, for example, be done only in the upwards direction and not in the downwards direction, and this is kind of similar. You see how the Swift is the easiest in the downwards direction and the Swift reverse is the easiest in the upwards direction. Now let's move on to inverse Swift. Each individual movement starts and ends in dextro or R slots. To do it, start with one pen in T1, the other in 1-2, and check that the pens are correctly positioned. Do a pass normal with the bottom pen and check how it collides with the top pen. Recommend you to separate the 2-3 fingers and T1 fingers so that the movement of the top pen becomes more obvious. You can see how the top pen just falls into position, like this. At the beginning I struggled doing this trick, but the advice that I can give you is to bend quite exaggeratedly the T and 1 fingers so that you leave a lot of space in here, and that's going to make this trick much easier to do. Like this. The movement in the upwards direction is done in the following way. First, again, check that your pens are correctly positioned and do a pass reverse with the top pen. You can see how some space opens up in here, and you can use that space to do a pass normal with the bottom pen. Then you do the same for the other slot. Now for the final variation, inverse Swift reverse. Each individual movement starts and ends in dextro or R slots. To do it, hold one pen in 3/4, the other in 2/3, and check that your pens are correctly positioned. Do a pass normal with the top pen and notice how it collides with the bottom pen. As it collides, it's going to guide the bottom pen into position, doing a pass reverse. You can do the same for the other slot. The downwards direction is a bit more complex, but what you do is that you do a pass reverse with the bottom pen, and then as you do that, some space opens up on top of it. So that allows you to do a pass normal with the top pen. Like this. Another thing I wanted to explain in here is that there's different ways of executing these swifts depending on the slots and the direction. So for example, this trick, which I used in my PSO22 combo, is also a swift, but I am using my thumb to kind of guide the pens into the correct position. When I was practicing this trick, I didn't know this, but after some thought, it's like, oh, it's the same trick, I'm just using the thumb. So yeah, there's different ways of executing these tricks. Another important way of doing the swift in the upwards direction is that instead of doing it like in the tutorial I explained, you don't use the thumb for doing this pass normal, but instead you move your index finger from the top of the top pen to the bottom of the bottom pen. And you can see how the top pen rests on top of my pen and my fingers. And as you complete the pass, the pen falls into position. And yeah, this is a bit more inconsistent to do, I would say, but it's more stylish. And I think it's like 3 videos down the line, this variation is going to be very important for other hybrids that I want to explain. So if you feel comfortable with the basic swift variations, you can, for example, practice this one. So to wrap up this video, I would like to introduce you to some linkages so that you can understand how to better incorporate these tricks into your combos. So as I explained, these tricks start and end in the same chirality. So for example, if you want to link swift with a different swift variation or a different trick that is in another chirality, how can you do that? Well, a simple way of doing that is with a twisted sonic. You can check how this slot has L chirality, and if I do this twisted sonic, now it's R chirality. So we can do something like, for example, let's see. So for example, we have this linkage. We start with a swift reverse in the upwards direction. So this is L chirality, and then we do a twisted sonic like this. And then we can link this with an inverse swift reverse, which is in an R chirality. Another example of the same thing would be, for example, swift like this, and then a twisted sonic to an inverse swift reverse. Again, we are moving from a swift variation that is in the left chirality to one that is in the right chirality. So this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. This was my first time introducing fully a chiral trick in this video tutorial series, and I know that the levo dextro thing is kind of confusing, but if you thought it was interesting or hard to understand or something was easy to understand, then please leave a comment below. I still have 4 more videos planned in this tutorial series, and they are all chiral tricks. So yeah, if I can improve my explanations or my clips of the tricks, then it would be super helpful for making the video tutorials as good as possible. Yeah, see you next time.